Hi, I'm Kate.
I'm Jamie.
Oh, can you not understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So does this remind you of anything? Flashbacks from maybe 4-ish years ago?
Maybe some trauma.
5 years ago?
Right.
Almost
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah. I mean, we were wearing them still in like 2022.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So, we are here to discuss As Bright as Heaven by Susan Meissner.
Which deals with the 1918 flu pandemic. Yeah. So, got a taste of that, which is why we were, referring to that.
So, we called this the Spanish flu, we as a society. Yeah. But as we've learned, it was really just called the Spanish flu because they were the only ones that I knew that it didn't start there. I remembered that, but I didn't really know the part about Spain wasn't in the war, World War I. So they were happy to announce that people were dying and the other countries didn't want to. So this became the Spanish flu.
That's why they called it that. So interesting.
Right. But actually it was originated in Kansas.
Yeah.
So
animals, right? Isn't that what we I feel
like everybody
told
says
us that. Yeah.
Animals. Because
that's true.
But it was it kind of got started in like an army base or something. It was soldiers, because then they went over there and then it
wasn't necessarily a rural area. Okay.
Transmitted quickly because of all that. So
who knows? There's so many theories, right? We could really just do a whole thing about
Point is, many people were sick, many people died,
and that's what this starts with, this family. Right. So it's their experience with dealing with the flu and what they saw firsthand.
Yeah. So I read this before. I read it in 2020.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in the summer.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So it was really fresh. Like you were. Yeah. I mean, they did the whole mask thing, but I felt like when I saw pictures, theirs would be like the women would be wearing a hat, and it would be like the scarf type around the hat, kind of. Not exactly like ours, obviously, but some surgical. I feel
in the medical, you see pictures of them having, but they're more like fabric, like ones that are tied. Yeah. You know, more like a surgical mask is tied in the back like that. But, so I read this in ebook the first time I read it, and when the mother dies, I chucked my book across the room because I was so mad.
Because quickly you get invested in this family, and they already start off with a death of their.
I mean, that's the first sentence,
right? Is their infant has died, and they have 3 other children, other girls, and so you're like, death is imminent.
This book is going to be about. And they quickly decide that they're going to take this job working for the husband, Thomas's uncle, Fred, as a undertaker.
And they live in the country, Pennsylvania, Quakertown, which is my husband has family in Quakertown. They moved to Philadelphia. Yeah. So they're going from
country to city.
And then you have this flu, so you can imagine city. We saw that with 2020 with like New York City and all these big cities where it was so much worse than where we are.
So more people up on top of each other.
Yeah.
So I noticed that in this book, the mom, Pauline, talks about death as a proper noun, capital D, like as a thing.
Well, she talks about like as a companion, like a quiet friend, like it's always with her. So it's like after she lost her child, which I can relate to that. I've lost a child, so it's just changes death for you. Yeah, you have a totally different perspective on it. Yeah, I mean, I'm losing any family member or anything, but I feel like when it's a mom losing a child, that's like a part of you.
You shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, so and that's something that you it's like a part of you in a different way than even a husband is. Right. I feel like
So she talks about it like it's a person, like a companion with her, and that reminded me of A Christmas Carol, because he also did that, where he like named those types of things as a anyway. That's
true. And so then to be in this be an undertaker living in a funeral home, like the house is in it's kind of like My Girl, if you've ever seen that movie. Like they lived in the same place where they had the bodies and where they had the funerals and all of that. So it's like death is just constantly with her, but she has a different perspective on it. It's really interesting. Yeah. I guess I could just talk about this because we talked about this with our other discussion about the body. It says that the body is a candle and the soul is its flame. So as she's thinking about, like in this part, she's talking about the ancient rituals of the dead. When the flame is snuffed out, all that is left to prove that there had been a flame is the candle. And even that we only have for a little while. Even the candle is not ours to keep. So just thinking about these bodies as they're, people are saying goodbye to them and the embalming and all the process that they have to go through.
Right.
Yeah. Such a delicate thing.
Yeah. So they get there, they meet their neighbors. They're kind of getting used to their new situation, but they're like not there for very many months, really.
Yeah.
And then the flu shows up.
Right. War happened, like all the wars happening before this. Their dad has to go enlist or whatever, and be a part of the war. But and then the flu is like everywhere. Yeah.
Piling up bodies outside of their house.
Miserable. And undertakers were apparently really new then. Like it wasn't a thing where you would take your loved one somewhere to get embalmed and all that. They usually did that at the house. Mm-hmm. So this was like a whole new thing. So everybody's just bringing all the dead bodies. Right. It's just It's even worse because they didn't want them in the home at all. Right. Because they could spread the illness, and so. Yeah. It sounds like it just intense. Yeah. I just can't imagine for the children to see that all the time. Yeah. Because they just lived with it. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I talked about in October of 1918 how they closed all the places where people gather. Remember this? All the churches, the schools, the theaters, the parks. I mean, I was thinking about when it said parks, like driving around, because that's all we could do. You couldn't go anywhere, so you just drove around. And parks were like, had the caution tape like all around them. I'm, this is so sad. Yeah. Like, can't even be outside. Yeah, it was very creepy. Very ghost townish, like, ooh. Yeah. So just funny that they did the exact same thing. Right. Yeah. Well, that happens later when they go to get a vaccine, which I looked up. And the vaccine part of this story doesn't feel like it goes with what historically happened. Yeah. But they were working on a vaccine. They were probably not legit vaccines that they got at this time. Yeah. But when I first read this book, we didn't have a vaccine for COVID. Yeah. So it was just interesting to read it in a different perspective now that we have a vaccine, and how he said, I don't think I wrote the quote down, but the dad says something like, maybe, or somebody says, maybe it's just, it doesn't really work, but it just makes you feel like you are doing something. Like how you, what's that? Placebo effect or something. Yeah. I don't know if maybe that wasn't the exact quote, but. Yeah, it does make me wonder. Anyway. Yeah, interesting. So I don't know if you want to go through. I was just thinking about the flu when they talked just directly about that. Some of the quotes was, the flu is not a thing that can care or not care. It seeks out the young and healthy, and there is no cure for it. You are as likely to die from it as survive. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty rough, I think, just especially where they were in the city, and they're at mortician, like that's just like you're gonna see the worst of it. Yeah. And I think that parade that they had right before, that like was basically a super spreader event, what we would call today. Yeah. I remember reading that historically that really did happen. There was like a big event, and then everyone was just sick afterwards. Yeah, when you're so close and you're all just sharing breath and you're coughing everywhere and everything. Yeah. But it is interesting just that some people get it, some people don't. And even when you're really treating someone that has it, or in the same house with someone that has it, and half of you don't get it, and then like the mother got it, and one daughter, and the mother was the only one that died. Yeah. And the other people didn't even get it in the house. Right. So it's just everybody's system is. I mean, obviously God has a plan for all of it, but it is interesting. Yeah. How it seeks out certain people. Well, our whole household got COVID. Like within days of each other, we all went down. Yeah. But I don't know that you guys ever have had it. I think my husband tested positive, but I don't even know if he really had it because he had no symptoms, and none of the rest of us had any symptoms. But you also y'all don't get sick as much. Thank the Lord. Just have really good immune systems. Something there. I know. I don't know what it is, but praise God. There's another one about the flu. It said the flu is a black shroud that has been flung across everything that breathes under the canopy of heaven. And if you stand back far enough, you wouldn't see all it touches, only the immense length and breadth of its expanse. I just love her imagery though, like how she explains things. I was thinking about someone that said they didn't the writing, but I love this writing. Yeah. So I think that it's just the pictures, you just imagine the darkness. And I felt like that with COVID, like it just was it was a really hard time. Yeah. When we were cut off from everything. Right. So I can imagine for them. Everyone's experiencing it at the same time. It's not just your town, it's just everyone. Everyone, yeah. And so for them, even just that part of it and the death, seeing the death firsthand.
Right.
Those had to have just been, yeah.
I can't really imagine it.
Can't
really
even imagine. It's intense.
I don't know if I have like more.
So that was like a big part of that first half, was just them dealing with that and their relationship with their neighbor, like you talked about, and one of the boys went off to war and they would be writing to him and, constantly wondering how he was doing because he was actually in the war. So it's kind of giving you his perspective on what's happening here and what's happening over in the war,
It's all at the same time.
It's all that history kind of stuff, yeah.
And then the second part, prohibition and, the speakeasy and...
Yeah, so during the flu and then after their lives, how it changed. But the big thing is before Pauline, the mother, died, they were taking meals and trying to help people that were sick, like that were in the worst part of town, you know what I mean? The people that didn't have anyone to care for them. So she takes one of her daughters and they go and they discover a baby that's basically by itself. The mother is dead. The sister looks like she's dead, is what the girl, Maggie, that got her. So they take the baby in. Yeah. And then raise it as their own after that because nobody claimed the baby.
And Maggie's lied this whole time.
Yeah. And it was a little boy, so it's like replacing the brother that they lost. So she had an instant attachment. Yeah, yeah. It was like the hope that was coming out of the flu was this little baby.
Right. Yeah. And they talk a lot about it in the book about how Alex, what they decided to name him, like got them through that difficult time, like with Mama passing away, and they just had that little spark, that hope and joy. That
he was their joy. He was their light during that time. Because he was just pure and unaffected, and
they had someone else to take care of, and
yeah, exactly, something to focus on, someone to serve, someone to love. Yeah, exactly. So that definitely made a different,
especially Maggie because Jamie, the neighbor who goes off to war that she is
much older than her,
basically.
Yeah,
he's gone, and so she has nobody.
Yeah,
she has to put her emphasis on.
Yeah, and she was really close to her mother. Like she would be in the embalming room with her mother, putting the makeup on the dead. Like she had this, She's a pretty prominent character throughout the entire book. You really get to know the characters. This was what I really liked about this book. Right. It's like each chapter is from a different character's perspective. Yeah. So I really like that.
And there's some crossover, which is interesting, just to see different perspectives of it. And
it just feels like you get even deeper with them. Because some books I feel like we're always like, we want more like of their background and their history and their, but this like, you're feeling in their mind, seeing through their eyes.
So Mama, Pauline, I had written it she just has this interesting thoughts in her head about death, and I never quite figured out. She just kind of had like a preoccupation with it a little bit after Henry.
Yeah. Like it was just with her, like this. I don't know if it was like a feeling, like a presence. She said death is not the phantom that it used to be. It's more like a quiet friend. Like she just feels like there's something there, but it's like because she imminently does die. Like, that's just interesting.
Well, I wonder if it's, a situation where she didn't want to live anymore. Like, maybe she would have survived this flu if she had, like, harder the fight for it. But she was just so wrapped up in, like, death next place.
And nice seeing her son. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. True.
It's just interesting because you just, like, I don't know. I feel like this author just writes things that you think in your head, but you never tell people.
Yeah, yeah.
And
so getting to see a character that is like that is, it's the way it's so relatable, I feel like. That's why it was so relatable. And it depends on your life, like what you've gone through in your life and stuff, but when you find something like that, you're like, I can relate to this. And yeah. That's what makes it more, it just gripped me. Like I wanted to keep reading. Right. And I don't always, there's not a lot of books that are like that for me. There
are, from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Just go.
Yeah. It just kept me intrigued the whole time.
Well, we're studying in language arts right now, like introductions, like the opening paragraphs of stories, and how do they get you? Is it a dramatic, like, or a vivid description of a landscape, or is it like a dialogue between people, or is it a description of a character? And this one, I was just thinking that this intro is just like
death,
right? Like this dramatic, intense.
So you're immediately sucked in, like, okay, this is what I want to know what happened, and
Because if you'd started the book with like My husband, wants us to go to Philadelphia to like take over his uncle's undertaker. I don't know if that would have like grabbed you as much, but you kind of.
Exactly. It is interesting too, like when you start your story, like some people start it and then they go back to the beginning before then. So it's like that all plays into, every author is different how every story that they write, I'm sure is how they want to go about it. But there's so much to, writing and good literature and, the more you read, the more you
have to compare it to and
it makes it more fun.
I'm just randomly going to go through a quote. This was more about the war.
Mm-hmm.
If people don't do their part to stop the spread of evil when they're asked to, it just gets stronger and then no one can stop it.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like that was profound because I feel like sometimes we're like, why do we go to war? Like, why do we have wars? Like, that's not, those people, we're fighting about something that isn't related to what we have going on here.
Right.
But if you don't take action,
if someone
then that
help,
can get stronger and then you might be at risk.
Right, right. So it's like you have to choose your battles, which I feel like the United States doesn't always choose wisely. Mm-hmm. But I feel like there's always a reason, and we don't see all that behind because we're just in our own little scope of the world, and there's so much to it. But you're right. I mean, especially the evil. We have to fight for the people that can't fight, or the people that,
It kind of actually reminds me of Allie Beth Stuckey when she talks about politics, like, what is it? Politics matter because people matter.
Or policies matter. Politics matter because policies matter because people matter. Yeah.
And that's,
it's just
some people are like, I don't care about politics, and it's like, you should, because it eventually does affect you.
Yeah. And as you are an adult, you realize more and more, and then it's going to affect your children and how that's going to affect your grandchildren. Like, it's just constantly, you think about it. But if you can start your kids off thinking about it, then I feel like you set them up for better.
Right.
Yeah. That's good.
You were saying companion. My companion never chooses. He responds, and I don't remember.
I also
chooses who dies.
My companion hovers kindly in the corners of the funeral home, like a valet, like a dance partner.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Like always like.
But she didn't seem like she was super depressed all the time.
No.
So it was like it's just there. It's just
like this dream. I don't know. Yeah. It was very interesting.
Her life was just different. And it hadn't even been that long since their child had passed away. So it's, grief.
Yeah.
With death hanging around could take a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that just reminds me of like the Grim Reaper. How people like think of it as this,
this dark thing hanging over you. Yeah. Yeah. But she saw it as more of a companion versus this, evil thing.
It was more of, it just had a more friendly feel to it than it was scary.
Right.
This is the paragraph. I'm trying to figure out. There is not so much as a tremble in the air about me, no sound or movement, no indication that I have even been heard, and then there is a certain whisper of a thought resonating deep within me that my companion never chooses. I think this is the point where she is kind of answering my question about why she has this preoccupation with death.
Mm-hmm.
And she's always wondering, like, why does my son Henry, why he was just a baby?
Why did you take him? It's that question that we always are like, why, Lord? I mean, not that we just doubt him, but it's just, you do are like, why?
Oh, and maybe she's talking about who dies from the flu, too, because it's like, it's not, he's this companion, which I guess you could say is God, maybe.
Yeah.
Never chooses, he responds. I mean, he's not like, well, she's saying he's not gonna, you're gonna die, and this person's gonna die.
You're gonna die, and you don't die, and you don't die, and you don't die, yeah.
He doesn't cause...
He's not just up there going, you're dead and all you are not, or something. You know what I mean? There's always, he has a plan.
Yeah. That's where we have to
we just have to leave it up to him. Yeah. Because if you get too deep into that, it wouldn't be healthy.
Yeah.
And that's not trusting either. So.
Right.
There
was, she talks, I don't remember if it's Maggie, but she talks about berry-colored stains when it must be Maggie, because she's taking care of Mama.
Mm-hmm.
And I read, sorry. Dog barking. I was like, what is that? Hold on. Okay, we'll try it again, see if he's gonna be chill.
Mm-hmm.
I looked it up because I didn't know if that was something specific, and all I got was like a viral rash. But it talked about it being like here.
Yeah.
I was thinking of I don't know about petechiae, but like where you're coughing so much, sometimes people would like
yes, blood vessels in your
like
skin or something.
So I don't know.
I could see that, but yeah, I guess some kind of a viral rash. Some people get that with viruses anytime they have a virus. So,
but basically, with the influenza, which I guess all of us get this influenza all the time.
Yeah,
now. We're just more immune to it, but it's like your lungs just filled and you basically drowned. In your own fluids.
Yeah, and they're talking about using like aspirin a lot, and were they saying that was a negative because they used it so much? I think so, because
they used it too much, and then you would like bleed out.
Yeah, so it's like they just didn't know. They didn't know enough. Yeah. Obviously, there wasn't enough science behind all that stuff to know back then what to do. But that was the only thing I think they knew to do.
Just to bring down the fevers and
fevers. Yeah. Interesting.
The other thing is, Willa gets sick. And then Mama gets sick, so we are led to believe that she got it from Willa. Yeah. Obviously. Yeah. And Mama's mother didn't let them come home, so they kind of blame her. Yeah. If we could have come home back to Quakertown, we wouldn't have gotten sick. Right. But I feel like Willa gets sick like the next day, and so I'm like, she might have already had it. In her system.
So if they would have traveled, could they have gotten more people sick?
More people, or would Mama have not because she wouldn't have, I don't know.
That's true. It's hard to know. Yeah. So we were talking about what would you do if it was your child calling you saying, can I come home from the city? This is, the flu's happening. How do you choose? Because she was protecting the children that were there and the baby that had just been born versus, that's hard. Yeah.
I don't feel like I would turn someone away.
I would just be like, yes, come. Whatever
we'll
happens,
just live in different homes, or we'll stay separate from each other. Or...
Yeah, but just come. Yeah, for your safety, just to try to keep them safe if you could.
But for sake of the book, they couldn't because they had to be.
Yeah, that's just the story. The storyline it took, but so that caused a rift. Yeah, especially after she died.
And then Papa's like mad.
I think he held on to that for a long time. Yeah.
Which I don't blame him. He kind of wants to be able to blame somebody, but maybe he blamed himself for taking them there, and so he wanted to place the blame on someone else so he could feel better about his decision to move to the city. I don't know.
Yeah, we all do that. It's hard.
There were some pop culture references, like different songs that I wanted to look up and listen to, like What'll I Do and Let Me Call You.
See, I knew that from somebody from Golden Girls. She sang that once.
Oh, right.
What'll I do? Yeah.
Just leave it to Golden Girls. So.
Right.
I'm probably jumping around. So in part 2,
they're all like getting older and growing. Right. The girls are like not quite adult. Well, 2 of them are adults, and then the youngest one is probably like high school.
She's like 14.
Yeah. So, and the little boy is like 6 or 7. Yeah. So we kind of see time has passed, and flu's obviously way behind them, but it's kind of like where their lives have gone since then, since losing their mother and what all that looks like. So. Love stories and how they're, meeting, the older girls are meeting men, and how the boy across the street comes back into their lives, and, how that all kind of like gets tied together.
Yeah. I think this love story of Maggie and Jamie is it's just interesting. Yeah. But, she's engaged to someone else. She breaks it off. She gets together with Jamie, whatever. Yeah. She finds all the letters she ever wrote him when he was in the war is like one of the very few possessions he still has when he comes back. Yeah. And so Willa finds Jamie on the porch, right? Yeah. And asks him to come in. Mm-hmm. And Maggie's upstairs, and she wakes up about the time that he comes in the house, and she's awake. For hours,
like in the house, she doesn't know he's in the house. Like he'd come back after all these years,
and it was just kind of like I'm thinking to myself, "Isn't this interesting that she's waking up, not being able to sleep because she's thinking of him? Yeah, and what should she do about being engaged?
If you just would walk downstairs,
yeah, right there. Yeah, and then later she does think of this. Yeah. She thinks I was here. He was in my house the whole time. I wasn't sleeping upstairs. Yeah. And then it's just like he has all the letters. What in the world?
And they were so far apart in age. Like she was like 15 and he was like 21. Yeah. But after that, when you get older, obviously
like 21 to 28 is not
age doesn't matter then.
Big of a deal.
Yeah. So it was like cool. I always wondered in the beginning when she liked him so much, like that could never work, girl. Like he's too old. Right. But then it all works out.
But the fact that he like seems like he cares about what she has to say.
I think they had like a friendly bond. Like he was probably like, oh, she's a sweet girl. But then it was kind of like, I felt like even though she was younger, I don't think he was trying to take advantage. There was something created there, some kind of a bond.
I feel like it was, the early times was more than friends, but not romantic. So like sisterly. Yeah. Like I really appreciate you. You're really good. Like.
And she encouraged him and wrote to him regularly. Like I think his parents were the only other people, so it was just something he could hold on to.
Yeah, hold on to.
Hope from home that you can have.
Because they was crazy over there.
Yeah. And when he came home, he was a mess. So just life just doesn't go back the way it was. Our poor soldiers. Yeah. We don't realize what they go through.
Right. That kind of reminds me of the women. Just my most recent
war type book. Yeah.
Read, so.
Yeah. It's hard.
And what did you think about, so Alex, the baby, they end up finding his real family.
Yeah. Just
and then
wild.
His real family doesn't
really want him because it's not that they don't want him, but he's been raised by someone else and he can't it's like he can't connect with them.
And I mean, I don't know, like if I suddenly found someone in my family that I don't know, they didn't know me, they didn't know us.
Yeah, exactly.
I just would want them to be happy.
Yeah, I would
too. Feel safe and.
I would too, especially a child.
Yeah.
Like if he could just grow up isn't this in their 7 to 8, until he was 18 or something, and then choose I want to have a relationship with you. But when they're so little and that's all they've ever known, that would be hard.
And they still had Alex could still go and have dinner with his family.
Yeah,
his real
it wasn't like they were
stuff.
never come back.
Right.
It was just like
it's an open adoption.
Clearly, right, exactly. And they have that today. So it's just more than one family.
So I felt like it made sense with how his dad had a new family and
it just couldn't
not that
have
he
that
didn't
connection.
care about it.
I don't think it. I think he cared enough to say he needs to be with you guys because you're all he's ever known.
Right.
I mean, from the time of a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Maggie had to all that truth about how she found the baby and really had to come out But that was redemption for her, and kind of probably a burden off of her, I would think, after all those years.
I would feel so terrible that sister lived all her life thinking she
killed her
brother and just,
That's true. Yeah, that would probably be the hardest part. But then hopefully, now that she knows she didn't kill her brother, then she can move on and have a good life,
Well, and it wasn't even that she thought that, it was like people fed that into her.
I know.
And she was like...
She was just... she was sick, and so she was saying things that didn't make sense, and so they just said, oh, this must have been what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Why'd they go there anyway? That's just crazy.
It was just,
I couldn't remember when I started rereading this again. I couldn't remember, that part, what did the sister really think? Mm-hmm. And I think I thought that, the authorities... thought the baby died, had already died. They came into the house and they found all the baby things, but thought, oh, the baby must have died before the mom. She'd already taken care of it, and so there isn't a baby.
Right.
There's no baby left.
Right.
So that's
true. That was a little bit of the mystery. I felt like there was what I was talking about. It was it had the history of the flu and the war, and then a little bit of mystery, and then obviously there was love stories. So it was it had a little bit of everything, which I think is why it was just gripping. It was just a good story.
Yeah.
I mean, just a good story. Well developed, and I just liked the characters. I just felt like I was in it. And then when it was over, I was sad.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't want to, stop reading it, which doesn't happen all the time with me. Right. I mean, I like books, but sometimes I'll just be like, okay, it's done.
Yeah.
But,
there's enough closure.
Yeah. It still felt like I was I was like, darn, it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just have to read more of her books.
Yes, I do. See, now it's you get caught on an author, and I'm like, okay, now I can... It's so relatable. I'd like to read more.
Yeah. So overall, what rating would you give it?
I mean, on Goodreads, I gave it a 5, but I don't do that very often. But then I was thinking about what we had put as our 5.
Yeah, which were
Gone with the Wind and Christmas Carol, up there. So I was thinking probably between 4 and 5, though. It's because it was the story was just so good to me.
And if we put Homecoming as a 5, also, so.
And that's another book that,
it was similar, and
it's just the style and just how it gets you in, and
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I would highly recommend it.
Yeah,
it's a longer book, but if you keep reading it, you don't feel like it's long because you want to keep reading.
And the chapters, because they switch back and forth between characters, the chapters sometimes are
Not very
short.
long. It goes quick.
So,
it's like it's not. Yeah, it's pretty easy to read. It's not like you're having to go back or something. Yeah.
I did half physical book and half audio, and the audiobook, each character has its own voice.
Oh,
and
that's
so that
cool.
was kind of nice.
Yeah, I could probably listen to it then after reading it, because that would make it even more different, like a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to see if that audiobook was recorded after the pandemic, because I wondered if this book got more traction or more visibility after COVID.
Just so people
to see if the audiobook,
It's true.
Maybe I don't know if typical books, audiobooks that are different characters' viewpoints in each chapter, if they have different
voices.
Narrators.
I love when they have different voices, even just different characters. Like Gone with the Wind had different.
Right.
It was good. Yeah, it just makes it more interesting, because you can't always do those voices in your head.
Yeah.
It's good.
Anything else you want to comment on?
Nope, I just recommend it, and yeah, it was good.
Okay.
Very good.
Well,
till next time.
Yep.
Keep on reading, raising, and praising.
Bye.
Yeah.